106 points higher for the Nifty, 8,208 for the market, 26,575 for Sensex, which is about 339 points higher. Absolutely flat after the initial movement that we saw. Always good to see that there is follow-up buying, or every time we are seeing a decline, there is buying into the market. Let's welcome in our next guest. The management at Prabhat Dairy is with us. Mr. Vivek Nirmal, Joint Managing Director at Prabhat Dairy. Sir, if you could just tell us, after demonetization, what has been the sort of impact on the business?
Yeah, on the milk procurement front, obviously we have seen a lot of dairy cooperatives and all, wherein the payments were made in cash. Farmers were struggling. We had a lot of payments through bank payments, but so farmers got the money, but ultimately they had some issues withdrawing it from their bank accounts in the past few weeks. I think now the situation is normalized. So that's on the procurement front. On the sales front, are two business segments, basically the ingredient segment and the consumer business segment. In consumer business segment, for the first 15-20 days, we saw some downfall, mainly in the high value milk products like ghee and all. But again, now that ghee and all demand we have seen picked up again this month, December onwards. And the second segment is basically ingredients, wherein we supply to a lot of corporates and for bakeries, confectionaries and others. So there, at least in this month, we are not seeing any impact. But in case the pipeline stocks increases due to the fall in offtake, we might see some impact in next months to come. That's our current understanding of the situation.
Right. In terms of the movement going ahead, you don't expect any major disruption. Once the cash flow is normal, you expect demand to pick up again?
Yes, we definitely see a lot of our dairy products, particularly are daily need items, including milk or dahi or paneer and all. So they are a part of the daily meals. Discretionary items, if they have an impact, that can impact on our ingredients business slightly, and that can impact and reduce in demand in the months to come. But overall, what we are seeing is that the cycle has again picked up. So the money is again coming from consumers to retailers. Retailers were not able to pay to distributors because they had cash. But now we again see that retailers are able to pay the distributors, and now the cycle is picking up again. That's what we are seeing.
Right. In terms of payments to your suppliers, agricultural market, do you expect a big slowdown over there, or whatever has to happen may happen in this 2 months and then things will be normal?
See, there is a sowing season now, and a lot of fodder sowing and all also goes in this season. So for farmers, it definitely was a bit difficult in the initial weeks to pay to the daily wage laborers for sowing and all. And this is a very right time, so they can't delay it. So so the initial 2-3 weeks definitely saw a crunch. But now in a lot of rural banks, the currency has been made available. So now they are able to at least transact. Second, what we have also seen is a lot of transactions have happened on credit. So even the daily wages labor are working, they have been assured to be paid, after 1 month or 1.5 months, as soon as the cash situation improves. That is the kind of situation we are seeing on milk supply front.
Right. In terms of your payment to your milk farmers, is there also something like credit, or slowly and steadily as cash flow is increasing, you're paying up your suppliers also?
So our payment term is a 7-day or a 10-day cycle, and that has remained the same. But the problem is that the farmers tend to withdraw that particular cash from the bank account. At Prabhat, we do our 100% payments through bank accounts only. So making a payment to them was not a problem, but then the problem was that their end to withdraw that cash, since the bank branches used to be out of cash, maybe in the afternoons or maybe in the late mornings itself. But then that situation we are seeing it improving now.
Right. Earlier you had told us that you would want to increase your B2C revenues from 30% to 50% by 2020. Those targets are unchanged. Yes, there may be a delay, but they are largely unchanged.
Yes, absolutely. Because maybe it might be a few quarters here and there, especially in this situation. But largely the targets remain unchanged, and we also strongly feel that, particularly since it's a dairy product segment, this is a short-term disruption what we are facing. We are very hopeful to get the situation on track sooner.
Right. For your competition, unorganized market would be a very, very big competitor to you. You think that's where a lot of disruption would happen and people would shift to organized players like Prabhat Dairy?
I think that has been a very main thing that we are witnessing in last weeks. there have been a lot of dairy players who have been manufacturing products, and we have been really not in the tax bracket. Now it is being very difficult for those operators to manage, and that's why the organized sector is benefiting. This is I am talking in terms of ingredients, and even when you come to smaller, the consumer-based products like paneer or dahi and all, exactly the same thing is happening. Since now they are coming in the tax bracket, the cost advantage is not going to be there. Plus, coming into tax bracket also means that they need to have other licenses apart from tax, which is like food safety license and other. So then it becomes a full-fledged operation, and so the unorganized players are not really able to cope up with this. So I see at all the ends, while there is some short-term pain, but organized sector in dairy particularly, which is 30-35% only, is largely to gain from this.
Right. In terms of, most of the consumer products, you think that's what will happen? Can you also just tell us for your product, what's the pricing differential between probably, Prabhat Dairy and an unorganized player? Is it very, very big so that consumer may just think before shifting?
It's not only the pricing difference. For example, we will just take an example of fresh milk, and it's in pouches. So normally 42 rupees is the MRP per liter of any packed milk. And if we see the exact cow milk MRP for a loose milk, it's not more than 35 rupees, 36 rupees. And this is particularly consumed by the middle income segment or lower middle income segment. And so 6 rupees to 7 rupees a liter difference is right now there. Now, with the dairy producer, milk supplier, the transporter and the seller, everybody coming into the tax bracket, that they need to have licenses at everything, first of all. Licenses mean more expenditure in infrastructure. That again means larger cost, apart from the cost which they are going to spend in tax. So that milk is now going to be costlier. And that's why I think organized the cost advantage there, what they have right now, I certainly see that they'll be losing on that cost advantage to a certain extent.
Right, but do you think people would also now prefer to go with the organized players because then it doesn't lead to any disruption, if there are any issues?
Absolutely, because since if the price differential is very small, people definitely prefer to have a packaged product which is a uniform and which comes from a reliable source, vis-a-vis something loose which you really can't be sure about the source. And in food products, that's very, very crucial.
Right. Can you just talk to us about your cheese plant as well? When do you expect to achieve full utilization? Again, majority of your suppliers were, in the institutional side, so it's not much of cash business involvement.
Yeah, so there's no cash business involvement. Right now, our capacity utilization is low. In next 3 years, we expect it to be around 85 to 90%. Right now, we have recently started exports, and due to the good quality milk, the cheese quality obviously is better. So we are seeing a lot of repeat demand in cheese exports as well as in domestic market. We have now launched new variants, like we have recently come up with ricotta cheese along with the cheddar cheese and mozzarella cheese. So these new variants are also helping us further to increase our overall business of cheese.
Right, and just wanting to know that you're even earlier you told us that within 2 to 3 years you expect a major ramp up in the cheese plant. So again, there is no change over there, right, from the previous estimates.
Absolutely. We are perfectly on track, and we are expecting to fully utilize the plant capacity in next 2.5 years.
In terms of the cheese market, it's a very competitive market. So how do you expect such high growth to happen? Will you be aggressive versus other players?
Yeah, see that the basic USP of Prabhat is, since we procure directly, the quality of milk is very high, and that's why the current consumers using cheese already, or the consumers who are wanting to try out new cheese variants, they definitely give a preference over here. Secondly, the market of cheese, particularly in India, the category is growing at more than 25%. Out of home consumption is increasing. So those are very strong growth drivers. Now from basic cheeses like cheddar and mozzarella in India, now the new variants like gourmet cheeses, which like Gouda cheese, Emmental cheese and processed cheese, I think they are also on increase. So that's why we are quite hopeful that the category growth is very suitable for the maximum capacity utilization of our plants in consumer segment and institutional segment as well as in the corporate segment.
Right. Sir, thank you so much for taking out time for us. Always a pleasure. Taking a break, back in 2 minutes. Markets continue to be stable above the 8,200 mark, 8,211 and looking steady.